Welcome to Radiolink.
Welcome back to the Shop Mini RC. I'm Ken, and today we're looking at the new Radiolink. Well, newish, new to us for sure. This is the RC8X. This thing is looking pretty awesome. Let's check it out. So boom, the RC8X from Radiolink. Here's all the cool stuff that's in the manual. If you want to pause, you can pause. Tons of information. You can probably download the PDF off their website. Look at all the button introduction down here. There are a ton of switches on this guy. Full color screen. We'll get into it here. Telemetry on the battery, gyros, all that good stuff. So we'll turn this guy on.
Welcome to Radiolink.
Welcome to Radiolink. Here we are. You can see it's a full color screen. It's 4.3 inches. It's 800 by 480. Backlit IPS touchscreen. Okay. This screen can actually be used as an FPV display. We're not going to be able to show that because we don't have the FPV set up, but you can actually split the screen in half, and the lower half is the FPV. At some point, we'll probably end up getting that little setup because it looks super cool, but for now, you'll just have to trust. We'll show some pictures and stuff. Now, it's an 8-channel transmitter and receiver. It also comes with this 4-channel receiver, the micro here. But yeah, you've got 8 channels here plus a telemetry. We'll talk about that more. Also, there's 8 groups of fully programmable mix control. So if you want to do rear mix, all those different mix things, here you go. Steering, brake mixing, gyro mixing, 4-wheel steer mixing, dual ESC mixing, CPS mixing, tank mixing, and programmable mixing, and then tilt mixing. So tons of different mixing controls. There's also, I'm not sure what this is, but it says a subsidiary ID storage for 16 groups of models. I'm not sure what that means. We'll have to do some research on that at some point, but it holds 200 models. So you're able to throw in 200 models, which is pretty nuts, guys. Pretty nuts. This guy also has a 600 meter range, which is awesome for any kind of speedrunners, people doing long range stuff. Usually that's speedrun guys doing that. It has a 3 millisecond response latency, so it's got super low latency, which is also very good for racing. This is definitely a race-focused transmitter. I mean, it'll work for everything, right? Boat, tanks, crawlers. I mean, you name it, this will run it. But that low latency is very important for racing, so that's cool. You can set the servo speed from 14 milliseconds all the way down to 4 and 3 milliseconds. They suggest that if you're running a analog servo, you should run at 14 milliseconds, while digital servos can run at the 2 or the 4 or 3 millisecond speeds. Just a little bit on Radiolink's applications outside of RC. There's actually a ton of different industrial applications that use this remote, like agriculture and industrial robotics, security, automotive applications, even just general education, but like they've driven, Teslas with these things. So there's a lot of interesting plugins and different, receiver modules and different stuff like that are used for other applications than just our toy cars. So pretty cool to see that. As far as the architecture on this guy, it has an ARM9 and ARM7 chip architecture, 720 megahertz main frequency, and then it's got 32 megs of RAM. It also has an SD memory expansion port right here in the front. Then that can take up to 64 gigs. So you can see right there's our little micro SD. So I guess if you had your 200 models filled up on there, you could just swap to a different SD and have another 200 models is my guess. So again, infinite models, pretty cool. This thing has a ton of little features here on the side. There's a DSC port, your USB, and then your headphones or headphone jack, sound jack. That's for like the tones and whatnot that are on this transmitter. So the DSC port can be set as a a simulator function. So it supports VRC Pro, CarX, Assetto Corsa, Computazone, and other simulators. You can basically use it as a controller for your computer games. I don't know if it'd work on Xbox or PlayStation. If anybody knows, put that down in the comments, guys. But you can definitely plug it into your PC and use it as a controller for your PC, which is pretty slick. It also can be set up for FPV head tracking functions with 3-axis or 2-axis tracking. Again, not totally sure how that works. And then lastly, that DSC port can be set up for something that they call TBS Crossfire, which increases the range of this thing significantly. You put it in high power mode. I think there's a little addition that you add to it and you get a ton more range. I don't know when you'd ever need more than 600 meters of range, but maybe. But you can do that, so that's a cool option. This thing is also highly customizable as far as the screen is concerned and the sounds, everything. You can change the wallpaper. Let's shut this guy down. So that screen right there, when you turn it on and turn it off, you can change that to any image that you'd like. So you can put your logo on there or your favorite rig, which is cool. You can change your theme right in here, different color themes. Oh, I guess we just select, there we go. So all the different presets, and then you can just set your custom theme here, your background, your font, all that kind of stuff. Model interaction, I believe that's going to be based on which model you're on. So you can actually change the theme per model. So that's really freaking sweet. You have your red truck, use your red theme. Your blue truck, use your blue theme. So that's pretty sweet. You can also change the sounds and the voice that's on here. So that sound you hear when you start up.
Welcome to Radiolink.
Welcome to Radiolink. You can change that. So you can have it say, let's go, or whatever you want, record your own audio. It does require a specific format. It's a wave format that's mono and a certain bit rate. You'll have to dive into that. Maybe we'll do a video on that at some point. But right now we're just kind of doing our surface level overview of this guy. But yeah, you can change all the audio files on this thing, the beeps, everything. There's also vibration. So if you don't want the sound, you can turn the sound off. There are vibration settings. So whenever you touch something, oh, you can hear that. You can adjust how much. Ooh, it gets real loud. Let's see here. Sorry for the beeps. Man, we're getting up. That's going to like, wow. You can feel the whole thing shake. So that's pretty cool. So that gives you the ability to get feedback when you're hitting buttons without it making actual noise. So that's pretty cool. And you can have it, the touch sense at a different percentage than the warning sense. So it has a different tone vibration if you wanted. Anyway, so that's pretty cool. You can also use headphones so that if you are in a loud place or if you are in a quiet place and you don't want it to make noise, you can hear everything through the headphones. So that's a cool option. Back to the customization, you can do all the channel setting customization, all your channel settings here. Your limiters, all that stuff. Obviously, you can change what channel is assigned to which button, obviously, all the different switches, everything completely customizable. If you wanted your throttle to be this and your steering to be this, you could do it. So pretty nuts. There's also a cruise control system in here. We'll get there, and I'll show you those settings, as well as an active dual rate, so you can just hit a button and it'll switch your dual rate. So you can do that for your kids. So you can turn down your throttle and your steering so it's a little bit less responsive, a little slower on the throttle. With just a flick of a button, you can literally just whoop, hit a button or set it wherever you want, and it'll change your dual rate. Or for racing, even if you decide, okay, we need to switch all of our dual rates in the middle of a race, just hit a button, boom, you're gonna have different dual rates. Pretty sweet. So our menu system here again is all touch, super fast, responsive. Okay, we're going to actually go ahead and turn off our vibration here, and we're going to turn off our beeping. Where are we at? Sound. Silence. All right, and if you noticed in that sound, you can actually set different volumes for different things. So again, tons of just different options on how you would want to set this up. Press button to broadcast. So you can actually set your sound on a button to turn on and off your sound, it looks like. Again, going back to the menu though. So you can scroll through the entire menu. There's each section. The system menu is this first option. You can just click here to the basic menu, telemetry settings, race menu, or you can just scroll through it all. You'll notice it actually goes to the different settings here. I think actually we're not showing. Let's go back to our standard. I think because we're set all red. We'll go to the standard theme. There we go. Now you'll be able to see it as we scroll. So as we scroll, you can see it changes which menu we're in on the side here. So you can either scroll to where you want to be or just click straight to it. So that's pretty sweet. A lot of fast, easy access. You can scroll all the way down to the tools menu, which is this toolbox here, but then we have model select on a separate screen and our SD card with all of the files and stuff. So you're able to put this into your computer, or you can plug it in using USB, and you can change out all these different files. Again, that's going to change everything, even your icons. I mean, you could literally completely change the whole skin of this if you wanted to spend the time to go in and change your icons and whatnot. These are all just pings. You can't see them here, but if you were to plug it into a computer, you'd be able to see what each of those little icons are. So pretty nuts. Your font, you could change your fonts. If you're in English, there's your font that it's using. Change it to a different one. Your sounds. English, there's your prompts like your welcome and all that different kind of stuff. Hello. Anyway, so if you wanted to spend a lot of time in there, you could totally do that. It'd be cool to see a repository where people have customized themes that are uploaded on the internet. We can just download them and throw them on there, just like totally changing the look of that. So if anybody out there is doing something like that, put that down in the comments below as well, because all you'd have to do is provide the different icons and fonts and stuff, and then you take your SD, back up what's on there, put their theme on there, and you can totally change the look. So that would be super cool to see. What else we got in this guy? Obviously, here's our main screen. We have our voltage, our model. We have all of our different channels here. You can set your trims and your sub trims, your endpoints, and your dual rates, all that kind of stuff. You can see all the different modes here. These are icons representing what mode we're on. Timers. So if you want lap timing, you can do that. All your live telemetry and your RSSI. So it's capable of RSSI, obviously. The receiver and model battery voltage and telemetry port of the receiver, you can use that. There's no extra module needed, just whatever's on this receiver, you plug it in. Let me grab the little battery plug here. So it goes into your battery and into your ESC. And then this guy here, positive and negative, just plug it in here. And now your telemetry of your battery is being sent to your receiver, or your receiver's picking up your battery voltage and whatnot. And that will show up in here as well. So you have all of the telemetry you would really need, and it supports it on this receiver up to 8S, so 33.6 volts, which is pretty cool. Also, while we're looking at this guy, and this one I believe, well, no, just this one is actually the splash proof. This is IPX4. It's also got a gyro. This little guy also has a gyro. You have to, I believe, update the firmware to get the gyros set up on this one. Not totally sure on that. We haven't messed with it. We don't really use gyros, so I'm not 100% sure, but that functionality is there. So it's integrated in the receiver, which is super cool. And then obviously this transmitter is compatible with all the old versions of Radiolink receivers. So if you have an older Radiolink, I know there are some pretty popular models out there. This guy will bind up with all those old receivers. So that's pretty cool. But I do love this home screen and all the different things here. So if we were using rear steer, you would see it would switch. It'd probably show all four red, things of that nature. Get you a better look on that. I mean, it's a very, very clean looking LED or LCD. High detail. It's not pixelated in any way. I mean, you can see that. Look at that. Look how clean that looks. Anyway, I'm really digging it. The ergonomics of this guy feel pretty good. You can one-handed steer it if you're into that. It's a little bit of a reach. I believe there is an adapter. There's a couple different adapters. There's one that you can literally just clamp on that goes on any transmitter. It's just a little aluminum piece, and you tighten it on there. Or there's a 3D printed wheel that you can get, I believe. So you can do rear steer if this is too much for you. I have pretty big hands, so it's not too bad for me. I do kind of wish that. So another thing that's cool is you can actually swap this over to left-handed. So you could have left-handed. You just basically pull out these two screws on each side, pull the whole module out, put it in here, and flip it. So that's actually pretty sweet that it is, I guess, reversible. One thing that would have been cool is if they actually brought this molding back and you were able to adjust this whole piece forward and back just a little bit. You can pop the screws out, slide it back, pop the screws in, and get it closer back here, because we do like to have our wheel kind of further back. We run a Noble NB4 and NB4 Pro quite a bit, and so it's got a fully adjustable wheel, which I do dig, but I do wish this was slidable. That would have been a cool feature to have on here, although it would change the look a little bit. But either way, I think more transmitters need adjustable wheels. But this, as it is, to be honest, it feels pretty good. Like the natural position when I'm holding it feels just about right. Just a little further back would have been my preference, but we're good here. What else do we have? Oh, let's talk about the battery on this guy. So this comes with a LiPo battery, and out of the box, it's just kind of in here, kind of flopping around. So it's a little shaky. So we threw some foam in there to kind of help make it not shaky in there, because it does shake around even with the battery tray. So wasn't really a fan of that. So it would have been nice if they would have just given you some foam to put in there. That's all you need. Just one piece of foam is plenty, and then you don't have that rattle. We put both in there just because, I guess. But you really only need a small piece of foam, just kind of block it in there. But if you notice, this guy's just a normal LiPo battery. It's a 2S. I believe it can go up to 4S. Yeah, it's 2 to 4S on this guy, actually. So that's pretty cool if you've just got a battery. If your battery goes dead in your transmitter and you've got one that'll fit in here, it runs on a red JST. Just make sure you're positive your negative's correct. But if you didn't make sure it was correct, it does have a reverse polarity circuit protection. So you're not going to fry it if you accidentally stick it in backwards. But yeah, any 2 to 4S battery will power this guy. Also, if you're really in a pinch, they have this guy. So AAA's, 8 AAA batteries, and you can plug this guy right in there. And yeah, it fits in here nice and snug. Just like so. Okay. So if you wanted to run AAA's, you could. We're not the biggest fan of the AAA's, but again, let's say you're out somewhere and you just don't have a battery that would fit. Maybe you're running much larger batteries and your battery dies, but you do have AAA's, or you can stop by a gas station and get AAA's. You've got an option, which is super cool. And the last thing, you can actually power it through the USB. So while it's connected to a Type-C USB cable, whether it's a mobile power bank or a computer or a laptop, you can power this thing through that. So worst case, if you had a power bank, you can plug that in as well. So a lot of cool options for powering. Definitely a fan of that. Let's see. Let's talk about the buttons on this thing. We have got, so as far as RC controls or channel controls, we've got kind of a knob up here that is a click-based knob. You can see it kind of clicking. Okay, and then this guy here, which is just smooth, labeled VR, and the PS3/DL1. So this is kind of a smooth spin, and this is a notched spin. This would be good for a rear steer. It'd be nice if somebody made you can just pop it off. So somebody could make a little bit larger, almost like a thumb steer for this guy, if you wanted to use this as your rear steer. I mean, you can do it like this too, which is good. But if you wanted a little bit more precise control or something like that, you might be able to switch this over to a different kind of switch, or not switch, but rotator knob, and get a little bit better rear steer on that, which would be pretty cool. But you can use it as it is, depending on your hand size, I suppose. So you can definitely do independent rear steer there, or you can use the rear steer mixing. Obviously, there's tons of mixing options, like I said. We also have DT1, DT2, DT3, DT4. I don't know why it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. I assume because these are your most commonly used, 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4. These are forward and reverse switches, like they're 3-position, 1, well, I guess 2-position. I don't know. You can probably set them up differently. You can make a momentary or whatever, but you can see this is set to trim right now. We can go down or up. And they go this way. So you click it this way, click this way or this way. And then same on these. Throttle trim, up and down. DT4, up and down, which is our brake rate right now. And then DT3, up and down, which is a radio switch. Looks like that's just a binary switch of +2 or 0. But again, you can change these buttons to be anything you want. We also have a PS1 on the bottom, which is this is definitely a momentary switch, just on and off. It's not technically momentary, but it's a on and off. 2-position. Same here, on and off. on and off. These are the same on this side as this side. So they're just mirrored. And then this rear button here, which is actually kind of a cool button. It feels like there's a dual switch in there. There's definitely two kind of clickies in there. But it's kind of cool because you can be sitting it, and when it's up against you, you can kind of push it without having to take your hands off the throttle or the steering wheel. If you had something you needed to push with this, like maybe a winch. Imagine well, I guess you couldn't do in and out. You couldn't do 3 position. It's just a momentary. But like maybe if you wanted to change a setting, right? Like change that dual rate in the middle of a race without having to hit any other buttons, you could literally just push this up against your chest while you're driving. Or even like this. You're driving, boom, boom. Pretty cool. Right now it looks like it's set to just our channel 6, totally on and off. So I don't know, you can get creative with how you use that, but it is cool that you can hit a switch without having to take any fingers off anywhere. You don't have to change your hand positions at all to do it. So I like that. I like that for sure. So I guess at this point, let's just walk through everything in the menu. Again, we're going to have chapters below so you can skip through stuff. But first thing here, we have our different languages, our different theme settings. We already saw that. The backlight brightness. You can change things using the different switches here. So it looks like it's set to PS3, which is right. Where is PS3? PS1, PS3, PS3. So that's our gyro gain right now. I wonder if, I wonder if there's like a multi-switch, like you hold a button and, I don't know why. Oh, there we go. It's a click. I did not realize that. So PS3 is a click in. That is pretty sweet. And that'll turn our backlight way down. You can also set a decrease time. So after a certain amount of seconds of non-activity, watch, we'll do this here. We'll do 2 seconds. And then it should dim after 2 seconds. See that? And you can adjust how much it dims. Pretty sweet. That'll save you battery. Yeah, I love that. So you can just turn it off and really save battery if you want, just with the simple click. Pretty sweet. Okay, so that's our backlight settings. We also have, we need to change that so that we don't constantly turning off while we're talking. So that'll just prevent it from dimming on us. Here's all of our sounds, our voice modes, alarm only, without ketone, everything on. So if you just want to turn on a certain thing, our volumes, our warning volumes, our voice volumes. And then I'm not sure what this press button to broadcast and different frequencies stuff is. I wonder if that has to do with making a noise from the receiver. That would be interesting. What else we got? The battery settings. So then next we have battery. So in our battery settings, we have 2 different pages. These are for settings for the transmitter itself, different voltages, alarm voltages, stuff like that. And then there's some more settings there. This thing is very in-depth. There are tons of options and settings, which is very cool. Our vibrations, we saw a little bit of that. LED settings, total brightness, and the backlight type, whether it's LED, breathe, I wonder what that is. Is that our side LEDs? Like where it looks like it's, oh, it is. Look, I don't know if you can see that. It's like fading in and out, which is kind of crazy. Hold on, let me see something. So that's interesting. Can we turn this up? Maybe you'll see it better. Huh, cool. Backlight, always on. Wonder if that has to do with, oh yeah, it's on when the backlight's on. Breathe, that's neat. It'd be cool if there were some other options. I wish you could change the color of these LEDs. That would have been pretty sweet. So LED are the side LEDs. The home button settings. So when you click this button here once, it takes you home. So this is what that's going to do. System menu. versus power on and off. I don't know why we can't change that. Maybe that'll need a firmware update. So yeah, kind of odd. I don't know why we're not able to change those buttons here. Again, maybe it's just a firmware update. So that's one of the cool things about having a higher end remote is they do firmware updates where you can change stuff and get better features and usability and things like that. External input and output. I guess this is for the stuff here. When you're doing like the FPV stuff, there's video settings, all of that. Different protocols, tons of little options and features there. But yeah, that's all going to be for this DSC and the FPV video. We're on calibration here. This is where you can set your calibration of your endpoints internally on this guy so that things are properly set here, just from mechanical tolerances versus what the transmitter is reading digitally. So you can set all that stuff just by clicking on it. Okay. And then a touch test, which just basically lets you touch the screen to make sure that you're getting all the different touch points the screen has to see if there's any dead spots. So that's cool that all that is in there. And then information, which is going to tell you the name of the radio, which you can change, the language, the hardware version, software version, where to get the manual, reset all of your system settings. So that's where you do all that. Okay, so that's the whole system menu. Next would be the basic menu right down here, or you can click on the radio there. And this has all of your different channel settings. So the first menu here is going to be the reverse channel. That's to, well, reverse your channels, right? So if you're turning left when you need to turn right, just click that little switch, you'll reverse the channel. Next is going to be your endpoints. You can go up to probably 120 is my guess. Yeah, 120 is the max on your endpoint adjustments. Endpoint switch, that's where you're going to be able to hit a switch to change the endpoints from one to another. Okay, all the different buttons on the remote. There's our sub trims. So when you're trimming it all out, so you can have your quick trims up on here, but when you first set up a rig or a car, you're going to do your sub trim first, and then you can do your fine trims through the normal trim buttons. Then we have our channel settings. Channel setting is basically your assignment of the button or switch to the channel on here. So if we wanted to change our channel 1 to throttle, we could. It says steering, occupy the channel. Yes, we want to replace it. And then you can change your channel 2 to steering. And now they'd be reversed. So we'd have throttle here and steering here, or whatever knobs you wanted to switch things to. Okay, pretty simple. Channel limiter. I'm not sure what that is. I don't know what you do. It almost seems like a dual or a endpoints, but maybe it's just the max. I don't know. We haven't messed with that too much. Our trim and dial select. Not sure what this does. But tons of awesome options there. As we dive deeper into this thing, we haven't used it a ton, so we're still learning. There's a lot to learn in this guy. But it was all very simple, like there's nothing crazy confusing. Once you know what something does, it's easy to use. The interface and usability is very, very good. Switch select. Okay. Our PS3 backlight. You can see that. We can switch that to some different conditions, programming conditions. Tons of different stuff in there. Engine cuts, idle ups if you're a nitro guy. It's got everything you would need for nitros, screen caps, telemetry broadcast, stop speech endpoint, whatever, multi-protocol. You can change all that stuff so that when I click in there, this is going to do something different. Also the direction, normal, reverse, or if it's a lock or a jog. Okay. Double ratio. No clue what this does. Sure, it's cool though. Fail safe. So if something were to happen, what you want that channel to go to if something were to happen. Receiver settings. So different settings for the different protocols in your receivers. Okay, and that subsidiary ID mode that I mentioned, there's up to 8 of them. But again, I'm not sure what that's used for. Okay, so that's your basic menu. Then we have our telemetry settings. receiver signal. Different warning sounds. Can you hear it? Oh, I think we have all of our sound off, so we won't know. But yeah, if you lose signal from your receiver or it starts to get low, this can give you the different settings to adjust when you get an alarm. Transmitter voltage. There's all the transmitter settings for your batteries in there as well. I guess this one back here where it was battery, it's a little different. Let's see, transmitter voltage versus transmitter voltage. I think this is the same menu. So they just have that menu in there twice. Let's see, because it's got current voltage, calibrate, minimum, blah, 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 voltage 6.6. Yeah, and if we go here and go to battery, yeah, it's the same thing. So that menu is just duplicated in two spots. Your transmitter voltage and the battery setting are the same. Receiver voltage, obviously voltage to your receiver and all the alarms there in case that goes low. Engine battery voltage, same thing. That's for like nitro guys, I believe. And then telemetry broadcast switches. All right. Next is going to be our racing menu, and that's all of our steering curves. So you can set all your expo ramps, VTR, and I believe you can set extra points in here somehow. Let's see, quick and slow. Oh, VTR, there you go. So it's not a curve, it's more linear. Okay. There's also going to be the throttle curve, which is the same thing. You can do multiple points, so you can actually adjust the different individual curve points there. So you could do some crazy stuff if you really wanted to. And then brake curve, different settings there for different brake curves. Acceleration stuff, not sure how this is used. Probably drag racing, stuff like that. Guys that are doing drag races. Steering delay, I don't know why you'd want this, but I see it on all the high-end remotes where you're able to delay when the steering comes back. Maybe you want it, I don't know, maybe you want a slow return versus a fast return when you let go. So we could actually like delay the return to 0. I don't know if you can see that. Let's slow this guy way down. There you go, see? There may be applications for that. I don't know what they would be, but we want it at 100%. We want it to be as responsive as possible. But you could do some cool stuff like that. Okay. What else we have? Throttle delay, the exact same thing, but with your throttle for brake and the return. Okay. Cruise control, this is something that you're able to set a throttle rate to, and then you can set it to one of your switches. So it'll basically just, when you hit that switch, it'll give it that throttle. Okay. So that's kind of a cool feature if there was a reason to use cruise control. Maybe for a boat or something along those lines. Idle up, again, nitro stuff. Guys running a nitro. Traction control settings. There's all your track TCS stuff. You can do mixing on there as well. ABS. Again, that's just more stuff for drag guys. Basically, us crawler guys don't really use that stuff. Maybe some off-road racing would use ABS. Motor start, again, I believe more nitro stuff. And engine cut is going to be more nitro stuff as well. So a lot of cool features for just about every RC type you can imagine. Now we have our mixing settings. First one's going to be steering mixing. If you have different setups for how the steering is going to work and your different Ackerman adjustments, you can do all that. I don't know how that adjusts the Ackerman, because Ackerman's a physical thing, but actually, it could adjust the swing, how fast it swings out the servo. There's your different rates. all that stuff. Again, tons of stuff in here we're still going to be learning. Brake mixing, all that good stuff. Gyro mixing, how much gyro you get, how much gain you have, all that kind of stuff to help adjust your steering as you go. Also to be able to flip it, because when you install a gyro, sometimes if it's reversed, it doesn't work right. So that will be there. Four-wheel steer mixing. Oh, this is dual ESC. Sorry, what happened? We clicked the wrong one. There we go. Four-wheel steer. Okay, so there's all the different types of four-wheel steering you can do. Front only, mirrored, crab, and rear only. You'll be able to switch through those using different buttons. There's the different channels. Okay, those are your switch selects there. That's where you assign your different switches for the mixing. So that's a pretty cool setup for mixing for sure. Our dual ESC mixing. So if you're running like an 8x8, we have an 8x8 that's got a motor and ESC in the front, motor and ESC in the back. This is a way to mix that from having dual ESCs. So that's pretty cool. CPS mixing. I'm not sure what this is, but there you go. There's all the stuff there. Tank mixing. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Programmable mixing. This allows you to mix all of the different channels in any way you want, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, your different switches and which channels, your master channel and your slave channel, and then your curves on those, all the mixing rate. Okay, so you can do any kind of programmed mixing and then tilt mixing. I believe this is for like, yeah, for boats, rudder to flap, flap to rudder. So that'll adjust the mixing on that. All right, the last menu here that's in our scrollable menu is our tools menu. That's going to be screenshot settings. You can set a switch to screenshot if you need a screenshot. I wish you could record video on here. Since there's the FPV thing, it'd be nice if it recorded video. But I think it just does photos. There's our timer settings, so that timer that shows on the main screen. Different ways to activate that, vibrations, sounds, all that kind of stuff. We have our rollout chart here. So pinion, spur, kind of gives you your ratio, so that's cool to be built in there, a little tool to use. Also actual gear ratio. So okay. Those two screens. So that's pretty cool. And then again, our model select. We can select our different models. We can copy a model, paste a model, rename it, reset it, delete it. And then last is, again, this screen here. Okay, pretty simple. Tons of features, feature-packed for sure. It's got everything you would ever want to do, and it's all in a very easy-to-use interface. So I really dig that. We just have to learn what all that different stuff is, and then it's going to be easy to use once we understand what it actually is. Okay, so I wanted to show the binding process and models. One thing that I noticed, we added just a bunch of different little models here to test things. I don't know how it's sorting these or organizing these. It seems like when I would add a model, it would just kind of move things around. It's not alphabetical. There's no way to move the models. So I don't know if there's like a copy, like, I don't know. It's very strange. Like, let's try copy this. I'll copy mini. We'll copy it. And then I guess paste. Oh, we'll have to make a new model. So we'll just like model Y. Click on it, paste model. Now model Y is, or mini has been copied to model Y. So all the settings there would have been copied. But when I created these models, for some reason, like I created them, it was model 1, then the mini, then channel 8, then A, then B, then 1, then this model, and then Q. And for some reason, every time I'd create a model, it'd move things around. So I don't know what's going on there. They definitely need a way to move the models. Like just be able to click, hold, and drag and move the models around in some way. Because if you have 30 or 40 models in here, you want certain ones on the first model. You definitely need to be able to move them there. So I don't know what that's about. Not really the biggest fan of that little interface, unless we have a way to move our models around, because that's super annoying. especially since I can't define where they're at all, not even the order when I put them in. When I put them in a certain order, they came up in a different order. So I don't know what's going on there. Either way, that's the one issue I have with this interface. Everything else has been super awesome. Let's go ahead and do binding. So binding is super simple. So we can just go ahead and model select the mini, right? And when we bind, it's as simple as pushing this button here, holding the button down. There's a little tiny micro switch there. Hold that down and turn it on. Then you can click mini and model select, and now it should be bound. Okay, so you don't have to reset it or anything like that, at least not that I've had to. Every time I've done it this way, it's worked. It's been fine. So we are good to go there. And then we can do the same kind of bind process here. Except the problem with this one is you have to use a tool. So I do not like that. You have to use something to put down in here. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of having to do binding from the receiver. Some of the other brands do binding. Basically, when you power on the receiver, it goes into a bind mode for a second. And if your transmitter is set up in bind mode, you can bind. So you can literally just go into your model, select bind, it starts to pair, and then turn on the truck and it'll bind. You don't have to open the truck. You don't have to pull it. Like, what if I had this mounted somewhere I didn't have access to it and I needed to bind it? Now I have to reach that button. So that's another thing that's a big downside to me. I do not like the way these bind at all. Any receiver, honestly, where you have to use a bind plug or the button on the receiver. Not a fan. Especially when you have to use a tool to get down in there. Like, how annoying is that? You basically have to bind it before it's installed in the truck. All right, and then we'll go ahead and, where did it go? See, it disappeared. Our 8 channel went to the next page. Why? That doesn't even make sense. Model select, confirm, and now we're good. So yeah, you just saw there, it happened. I don't know why it changed and moved model 8 to the second page. Very strange. So another thing is, once everything's bound, if you have multiple models bound, if they're on, this is going to control them, which I do not like that either. There have been many times, especially in racing, where I go to grab a different car, switch models, and go run that car. And the car that's sitting on my desk is still potentially on or plugged in, or I'm testing something. I set the car down, plug the next one in, I go to test it, give it throttle, the other car is on. With this type of setup where it doesn't actually track the binding to the model, that means that that car is going to fly off the table. If I have multiple trucks running, it's a problem. It also means if I had a second one of these and I like give one to a buddy and they're on, there might be issues, or I have to rebind it every time because the binding doesn't go to the model, it goes to the remote. And so everything that's on at the same time works, which not good. It also means that if I've got a setting on a certain truck and I'm on a model and those trims and endpoints or 0 points or throttle, settings are totally extremely different. Like, so let's say that the throttle setting on one model, it has, for some reason, just has a lot of trim, right? Ton of trim on the throttle setting. And I'm on that model and I turn on that truck or a different truck that has no trim required, that truck could just go because it thinks it's that model and it's bound to it. So it's not, it's like the model settings are only settings that are tied to the model, not to the receiver. Some brands have the settings tied to the model and the receiver. So I really wish that they were set up like that. I mean, that's a whole different, they'd have to change a lot to change that. So that's just one downside to the Radiolink stuff, is that it all runs together. And they're not the only ones. There's very few that do it the way I'm describing, which is a much more preferred way, because like I said, there's a lot of things that could happen if you have multiple models on and you try to run a truck. That could be bad news. So I'll just do a live example real quick here. So right now we're on our 8 channel, right? And if I go and I switch to my mini, let's say my 8 channel truck was still set up, right? I've got certain trims set, and then I switch to my mini. Boom, it just switches it. It has nothing to do with the receiver. Now this truck is full throttle because it was still on, or I turned on the wrong truck and it was set on the wrong model. That is a big problem, in my opinion. I feel like you just got to be careful with how you grab stuff and how you turn things on. If you're on the wrong model, when you turn on the truck, just be aware, all of your settings for that incorrect model are going to apply to that truck. So you can only run one at a time, for sure. Guaranteed, don't have any other trucks on or cars on. When you go, make sure everything's off before you switch models, because if you have one on and you switch models, boop, select model. Yep. And then your trim is different. That other car that's not set up for that, off the table it goes. Yeah, that's a downside. And again, binding. I wish you were able to just go to the remote, hit bind, turn on the truck, the remote binds. That would have been awesome as well. I mean, there's some cheap ready runs that do it that way too, right? Like all the axials, all the FCXs, you don't have to touch the truck other than turn it on to get it to bind. Because once you've got these installed, sometimes they're in places you cannot reach them. And if I have to bind it, oh man, that kind of sucks. So that's a downside. Anyway, enough ranting there. Let's go ahead and get it installed in our little mini monster truck and we'll show you. All right. So we've got our little micro 4-channel installed in our mini monster truck. We're all set up here. I do dig the micro receiver. I like it a lot. I appreciate that they're offering a very small receiver. You can see it in here. Unfortunately for us, this truck was set up using the micro plugs, not the standard plugs, so I had to make a conversion to the standard plugs. Like I said, the receiver that was in here was a micro plug receiver, so it used these little guys, which I use on Mini Zs. So all of our 128 scale on-road racing, all the servos come like this. And all the ESCs have this same plug. So that's definitely a downside, that they don't offer a receiver that has these plugs on it for like the 128 scale, because I'm not going to be using these full-size plugs like this in a 128 scale drift car or race car. You just want to be able to plug straight in using these micro plugs. So I won't be able to use these in the 128s until we get another receiver that's one of the micro receivers using these plugs. So that'll be cool when that comes out, if that comes out. I hope it does, because I would like to use these on the 128s. But for now, we'll just use them in mini crawlers. That's what we have the most of. We have a ton of mini crawlers, so we'll be able to swap over our receivers over to this guy here. Should be pretty cool. They're definitely small, so I dig that. And again, all the other crawlers that we have pretty much all use standard size servo plugs, so not an issue there. And if we have to make an adapter for a truck here and there, not a big deal also. Pretty straightforward. So yeah, I'm definitely digging this thing. We haven't had a ton of time with it, just a little bit. And we'll have to do some more diving into this. We'll have to try it on a couple different style models, just trying to use the different features. Maybe when we get our 8x8 back, our 8x8 8-wheel steer, dual motor, dual ESC, crazy SCX24 is actually out of state with another individual. They're working on a body for it. So we have a well-known body guy working on a body for the 8x8. So when we get that back, maybe we'll swap it over to the Radiolink to do the 4-wheel steer mixing as well as the ESC mixing. That could be a cool video. So hopefully we'll get around to that at some point. But yeah, we'll definitely be showing this guy off in other videos as time rolls on, and as we get comfortable with it and use it for different features, we'll try to show those different features in different videos. So and we definitely want to do the FPV stuff, right? We definitely want to show that FPV screen. So when we get that set up, we'll definitely make a video on that. So given all that, make sure you know when those videos go up by subscribing and liking this video and sharing this video. That helps the channel out, and hit that notification bell so we know when the videos go up. Since you're a subscriber, notification bell will tell you and actually alert you. So definitely do that. We don't put out a ton of videos. I mean, we put out a good number of videos, but we're not going to just be like spamming your feed with videos. And most of our videos, as you know, are pretty deep dives. So we can only get so many of those done in a week. Anyway, guys, definitely check out this Radiolink. I know it's probably going to be past Black Friday by the time a lot of you guys see this, because this is going to be a long-term video for sure. Get a lot of views over time. But if you're watching it very soon, in just a couple days is Black Friday, and they're going to be having Black Friday sales on these guys. So definitely keep a lookout for that. All right, guys, I appreciate you watching. Why don't you go ahead and put down in the comments below to let me know you watched the whole video. Radiolinks got infinite customization. Because it kind of does. Like, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. So put that down in the comments below. We know you watched the whole video. And get out there and build something awesome. Build a new truck using a Radiolink. Build a course. Build a community. And then smash it, crash it, and bash it, guys. But don't break the expensive parts. We'll see you next time. Peace.